Locho sampo pagyo trashi pa tuche tempe trinle yarngo da pege drolor zampe tse parche palden lame shabla solvade Omo a Guru Vajra Dara Suma Timo Nisha Sane Karm Uta Varda Nishri Bar Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om a Guru Vajra Dara Suma Timo Nisha Sane Karm Uta Varda Nishri Bar Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhar Sumatimo Nisha Sanekar Uta Varda Nishri Vara Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhar Sumatimo Nisha Uta Varda Nishri Vara Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumatimo Nisha Sane Karm Uta Varda Nishri Bar Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumatimo Nisha Sane Karm Uta Varda Nishri Bar Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajra Timo Nisha Sane Karm Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Om Dhagi Jetsun Lama Tuje Che Nyamda Dala Tuje Siksu So Kebe Shesan Dala Tendu So Oyon Sunge Nawa Tsedo So Tseji Nine Sowa Debe Tse Dechen Korlo Viso Lekshone Yila Sambe Dede Malupa Gemel Hunge Drubra Jingil Sonye Sodan Dikdun Shabe Tse Dunge Namge Yinsu Lekshone Labchen Sonye Yonso Zobadan Cheranye Dun Chamra Jingilo Chancho Parge Ninsen Tugun Tu Niu Peme Sivdru Lekshone Chancho Drube Gegen Kunshishi Tungen De La Drubra Jingilo Dagi Lona Chola Chobadan Chemi Samjur Ngemba Shiwat Chedan Tumbe Dede Malupa Bemel Hungi Drubra Jingilo Dorna Tengne Tsera Tamchedan Teji Pardu Negav Tamchetu Rese Kyamne Lama Keleme Tuje Chenge Dala Siksoso Gongyab Drewe Nyamda Dachala Chetsun Lame Tuje Rabgongne Kudan Sunge Nawa Drame Tu Nyamsu Nyongwe Kesan Toprasho Kewa Kundu Yanda Lama Dan Rame Cheki Pela Longchechi Sadan Lamgi Yende Rabzon Dorje Change Koba Nyurto Vesho Hakyuke Kudandaki Lo Pakyuke Sundandaki Pakyuke Todan Dagi Teyerme Chiktu Jingilo Pakyuke Kudan Dagilu Pakyuke Sundandaginga Pakyuke Tudan Dagi Teyerme chik tu jingilo ma kyu ke kudan dhagilu ma kyu ke sundan daginga ma kyu ke tudan dhagi ten yerme chik tu jingilo Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni Swaha Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni Soha Om Muni Muni Mahamun Shakyamuni Swaha. Sangye chedan soge chonam la chanchu bhardo dani kyapsu chi dagi jinso gibe sonam gi drola penchire sangye druparash Sangye chedan soge chonam la chanchu bhardo dani kyapsu dagi jinso gibe sonam gi Sangye chedan soge chonam la jancho bhardo dani kyapsu chi dagi jinso gibe sonam gi drola penchire sangye druparashu. Today we will continue with the explanation of the 12 links of interdependence. And first of all, I would like to look once again what we have seen yesterday of the 12 links, because for most of us here, we are not so much used with this, knowledge and explanations and so on. And it is actually something quite important to understand well the 12 links. Why? First of all, because when we talk about the spiritual path starts where this life ends. Which means our spiritual path starts where we start doing things that transcend, that goes beyond what is only for this life. So what is only for this life is basically body, wealth, pleasures, image, and so on. So, in order to follow correctly the spiritual path, we must transcend these things. And very often when we talk about, samsara and this cycle of suffering in which we live and so on, very often we connect it to things only of this life. And also in the spiritual path we see it's very normal, if we say the truth, that we may be here practicing the Dharma and doing our meditation and receiving initiations and doing all of this. That is all wonderful. But what's our motivation? Why do we do this? Sorry to say, but very often it's a mundane motivation. Very often we do this because we want to feel more comfortable, we want to feel better, we are too stressed and we want to relax, or we feel guilty and we don't want anymore to feel guilty, or because we want to pray for the health of someone, or because we want a better job, or because there is a relationship difficulty, or whatever. So if we do on these terms, basically what happens is that we are using spiritual methods for mundane reasons. It's better than using mundane methods for mundane reasons. It's okay. It's not a problem in that. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying it's something that we shouldn't do. We can pray for everything. That's okay. But we are still doing something mundane. It's not part of the actual path to liberation. It's not part of the path to enlightenment. It's not part of the spiritual practice. So, what shall we do in order to really practice correctly? We must develop a strong intention to get out of the cycle of samsara, really to be free from suffering in its deepest way, not just the momentary, superficial level of problems that we have and so on, really from the deepest level. And in order to do that, we must develop what is called this definitive emergence, which is also sometimes translated as renunciation, but it's this deep, strong wish to get out of the cycle of suffering, to get out of samsara. But in order to do that, we must first of all understand what is samsara. Because many of us really, we don't have a very clear idea of what is samsara. We think samsara is the place where we live. Many people sometimes see samsara, the cycle of suffering, as, okay, what is samsara? All the things that I don't like in this life, that's what samsara is, Oh, that's the person telling me this, that's my financial difficulties, that's, the environmental problems, my health problems, and so on and so on. So to be out of samsara would be to be free from all my problems, basically. And that's not exactly what it is. It's quite far away, actually, from what samsara is. So samsara is not a place. Samsara is not situations. Samsara is not our external conditions. But instead, it's an internal cycle of mental defilements, action, result, which is suffering. The result of suffering, we react with mental defilements. That brings us actions, which is karma, that we react with, that brings suffering, that we react with mental defilements. This inner cycle that is explained very clearly in the 12 links of interdependence is actually what samsara is about. So, to get out of samsara, it doesn't mean to be reborn in a perfect place. Even if we are reborn in the pure land of Tushita, which is wonderful. We are still in samsara. Because our inner cycle is still going on. So even if we take this planet, for instance, this planet where we live, if it was not for the ignorance and the violence and so on of the beings, of the sentient beings living here, would it be a perfect heaven? A pure land? Yes. So basically, what's the problem of the place where we live? Ignorance, ourselves. Okay? Rinpoche many times he said, Albagnano is like a paradise. You just need to know how to live it as a paradise. So we have everything. There is nothing really missing. But what is missing is our own wisdom, basically. Okay? So, even if we imagine, take a pure land like Tushita or any other, and if we take a whole big group of people, let's say, okay, we go there. I was saying before in Italy, we take the population of Italy, 60 million people, and we go everyone to Tushita. Okay? We take everybody to Tushita. Okay, that's wonderful. We are able to take so many people to Tushita, no? Then what happened? We get to Tushita, all of these people. Then what happened to Tushita? Is it still a pure land or not? I don't know. I don't know what will happen. Maybe we make one little area in Tushita, a little like a small immigration place, a small Italy into Shita. Okay, what happened is that basically what makes a pure land is that most of the beings that live in this place are pure. Okay, so when we talk about Tushita and so on, what does it mean? It means that most of the beings that are there are pure. That's why it's called a pure land. If most of the beings living there become impure, the place is not pure anymore. It's not a pure land anymore. So for me, Tushita may be one of the best ways of understanding it. Imagine a place, pure Tushita or any pure land. Imagine a place that you go out. Okay, I'm making an example based on what we experience here, so maybe we can understand a little bit better. But imagine a place that you go out, you go to buy some bread, and the guy selling you the bread is like Rinpoche. Then you take a taxi, and the taxi driver is like Rinpoche. And then everywhere you go, most of the people are people of wisdom and compassion and so on. So this is what we mean by a pure land. It's a place where we receive so much good influence in this way. But we are still in our own inner cycle of samsara. But through this positive influence, it can help us to get out easier. Okay? So, the point is that samsara is not a place where we are. Samsara are not external conditions. Sometimes I even see people saying, oh, this is too samsaric. I need something that is less samsaric. What does that mean, Samsara, to something being samsaric or not, first of all, it's basically, if it's done through our own ignorance and mental defilements and so on, it's samsaric, that's all, So basically, it's an inner process, it's an inner cycle. And it's important for us to understand that. Because once we are able to see the cycle of samsara clearly, then we want to abandon it for sure. The reason why we are attached to samsara is because we don't know it. We haven't seen it clearly. So, the 12 links of interdependence is a way of helping us to see it clear. So we develop the determination to get out of it, which is the first step in order to get out. Once we have the determination to get out, then we start, it's like having a train. And then we start moving the train slowly, slowly. Then we start moving on the path to get out of samsara. In the moment that we have this determination, I must get out. Then we start doing what is necessary to get out of it. Okay? And the 12 links of interdependence really help us a lot to understand how this cycle is happening. Okay? And as we have seen yesterday, there are some parts we can see the cycle, it exists in relation to the process of death and rebirth, and also in relation to one's own life. And the cycle can become a positive cycle or a negative cycle. Depends on the way how we deal with it, depends how the way that we act and so on, the choices that we make. Okay, so let's see it again. So, just going once again through the 12 links of interdependence, we have, as we say in Tibetan, Marikpa Duche Nambra Sheba Mingsu Keche Rekpa Tsorwa Seba Lemba Sipa Kewa Gashi. So we have ignorance, karmic formation, consciousness, name and form, 6 sense gates, contact, sensation, craving, attachment, becoming, birth, aging, and death. So, how do they work, basically? There are different ways of seeing them. The first one is we will see the normal order of the 12. And first of all, we have ignorance, which is basically the ignorance of not knowing the law of cause and effect, and not knowing the interdependence of phenomena, not seeing phenomena as they exist. So out of ignorance, we have an action, we act, okay, which is what we call karmic formation. Karmic formation basically is action. Together with that, when we talk about formation, it's because together with that, it comes all our emotions, and together with that, it is also our whole personality, and so there is anger or love or whatever, okay? So through all of that, what we do, we act. The action that we do brings a result, but before that, it is imprinted in our mind. Every action that we do leaves an imprint. It can be a thought, a word that we say, a word that we listen, a person that we meet, any experience that we have, any action, any choice that we do, everything that we do leaves an imprint in our mind. So this imprint living, staying in the mind is what we call the third link, that is consciousness, which is divided into two parts. We have the consciousness in the moment where the imprint is, established, and the moment where the imprint manifests its results. It's like karmic formations is like planting the seed. It's like the seed. The consciousness is like the land where we plant the seed. It's like the field. So the same field, the same earth, I can have it in the moment of planting the seed, and when in the moment where I can get the fruits from that seed that have grown, but it's depending on the same land. Okay? In the same way, we have the consciousness, that is the mind, where the imprints are established, and is the same mind where the imprints manifest as a result later. Okay? So this is what we call consciousness here. And it's important for us to understand that every action that we do leaves an imprint in our mind. Even talking from a very mundane, let's say more gross level, every word that we listen, it leaves an imprint in our mind. It influences us. Every experience that we have, every thought that we have, all of this is constantly influencing us. We are not free from the influence, from the imprints of every action that we do. There are many types of imprints, like if we have a negative thought and we see that it is a negative thought, automatically we take away the strength of that imprint, because every imprint that we put, in the moment that we generate an opposite attitude directed specifically to that imprint, in other words, if I do a negative action or a positive action, and I regret from that action, I am making that imprint weaker. This is naturally. When I rejoice of that action, I make that imprint stronger. Okay? So the point now is basically that every action we do, we leave an imprint on it. Like we are not free from that. So this imprint, it's in the 12 links, is what we call consciousness. Okay? So we have the consciousness in the moment of leaving the imprint, and then there is the moment where the imprint comes out, manifests, and it manifests as a result. Okay? So this result can come in many ways, but basically it comes from the mind. It's planted in the mind, and it ripens in the mind. Okay? So in the moment that it ripens as name and form, as a psychophysical reality. So when we experience the result of an action, it ripens to us, we experience it through a psychophysical reality that we will experience. It can be a sickness, it can be a rebirth, it can be a physical state, a material thing, anything, but we experience the world through a psychophysical reality. Okay? So this psychophysical reality that we experience is called here name and form. Name is mind, form is body. So we have the 5 aggregates, basically. From name and form, inevitably, we will have the 6 sense gates, which are basically our 6 sense powers. So we have the eye, the ear, the nose, the tongue, the skin, and the mind, which will be, let's say, the brain. Okay? Which are the physical parts of our 6 senses. Once we develop the 6 senses, out of that, naturally, we will have contact. Contact is the union of objects of the senses, sense power, and sense consciousness. So I have form, I sense power, and I sense consciousness that when put together can experience reality. So it's through contact that we experience reality around us. So, when we look well at contact, if we reflect more upon that, it's very special because we can see how the world is relative, no? Because we experience the world through the union of object of perception, of object of the senses, sense power, and sense consciousness. And even if we are looking, the example I gave yesterday, we look at the glass. Do we have the same sense power of the eye? It's similar because we are all human beings, but still it's not precisely the same. Our eye sense power is slightly different from one to the other. Our eye consciousness, it is the same? It's also different. And the object, is the same object that we are all looking at? Actually not. Why? Because we have different distances. We look from different perspectives. So naturally, what is appearing to our eye is also different, actually. So we can see how reality is different for every one of us. Okay? Yeah? What happened is that what appeared to our eye is basically, shape and color. Then through that, we will give an imprint of this is this, that is that, and so on. No? We will give a name to it. So even that shape and color is different for each one of us, the way how we perceive it. Then through that, we need still to put a mental image, and through the mental image, then we will give a name to it. No? So that's why we have the difficulty really to perceive things independently of the name. We cannot do that, basically. So we always have this connection through the mental understanding, not only the senses directly. No? So, we have contact. Out of contact, inevitably, what comes out? Sensation. Whenever I enter in contact with anything, there comes sensation. Whenever I see, whenever I touch, whenever I smell, there is sensation. Sensation is positive, negative, or neutral. Out of sensation, there will come craving, which is the craving for happiness or the craving to be free from suffering. We develop this strong wish not to suffer and to be happy, which is this force that directs us to do everything that we do. Okay? The moment that we develop craving, we will direct this energy in a way or another, this wish in a way or another, which is called here attachment. In Tibetan we say lempa. There are different words for attachment, actually. In English, somehow we translate always with the same word. Maybe there is a better translation for that, but because here it's not the attachment that normally is said like to grasp at something and not want to let it go. No, that's not this type of attachment. Attachment here basically means to direct our wish for happiness and to be free from suffering in one way or in another. So I can attach myself to sensory pleasures, I can attach myself to material things, I can attach myself to views, philosophical views, I can attach myself to behavior, I can attach myself to my own personal existence, I can attach myself to many different things. It's basically, where do I project my own happiness? Where do I project the ability to be free from suffering at that moment? Okay? And can be in a positive way or in a negative way. And all of this projection of it is called here attachment. In the moment out of craving and attachment, I create the conditions in order for karmas that I have done in the past, actions that I have done in the past, to manifest their result, which is called becoming. So in the moment that I do through attachment and craving, I act. It's the becoming, and through that action I am manifesting a cause that I have done in the past. So when that cause starts to manifest, that seed starts to ripen, that is called becoming. Naturally, out of becoming, inevitably, what do we have? Birth. When something starts, it will come out. So out of becoming, there is birth. In the moment that birth happens, automatically, the process of death, of aging, and inevitably death will also start. In the moment that something begins, it already begins to end. Okay? So, in order there not to be aging and death, there must not be birth. For in order there not to be birth, there shouldn't be becoming. In order for there not to be becoming, there shouldn't be attachment. In order there not to be attachment, there shouldn't be craving. In order not to have craving, we shouldn't have sensations. In order not to have sensation, there shouldn't be contact. In order not to have contact, there shouldn't be the six senses. In order not to have the six senses, there shouldn't be name and form. In order not to have name and form, there shouldn't be consciousness. In order not to have consciousness, there shouldn't be karmic formations. In order not to have karmic formations, we shouldn't have ignorance. In order not to have ignorance, we should have wisdom. Okay? So one of the important things to understand here is that these 12 links, it's the 12 links of samsara. For example, when we talk about an arhat, the destroyer, those that have destroyed the victorious one, those that have had victory over ignorance, that have destroyed the enemy of ignorance, that have gone out of samsara, or a Buddha. They don't have ignorance, but do they act? Yeah. Are there actions? Do they interact? Sure. But they are out of this cycle. Why? Because they do it without ignorance. So they are not in this involuntary cycle of cause and result. Okay? Because they do not create causes for suffering, so naturally they do not experience such type of result. So basically, this cycle that we are seeing here, in order not to have aging and death, we must not have birth and so on, is in accordance to the process out of ignorance of samsara, the cycle of suffering itself. So, in this way, by eliminating ignorance, then automatically all the rest that comes after it will be eliminated. And this doesn't mean not having name and form anymore, because if we look, a Buddha, does a Buddha have name and form? Yes. But a Buddha does not have name and form, which means body and mind. A Buddha doesn't have name and form, body and mind, which is a result of the karma created and deposited on the consciousness and so on. Okay? So when we say in order there not to be name and form, what do we mean by this name and form? The name and form that is the result of a negative or an action done with ignorance, that is without any choice. Because when we take a psychophysical reality, when we take birth or when we experience a new situation, do we have any choice on it? Really? Freedom? When we take birth, do we have choice to, I want to have this birth or I don't want to have this birth, really? When we get a sickness, do we have a choice, I want to get sick or I don't want to get sick at that moment? We have a choice by creating the causes and the conditions and so on. But at the moment where it starts ripening, we have no choice. Okay? Why? Because it's a result of our own karma to which we have created the conditions, then it starts to ripen. Like something, you press the button, it's coming now. You have no choice coming back. Okay? The experience that Buddha has, the body and the mind of Buddha, it's not at all without choice. There is totally freedom. And this is the main difference. Okay? So, our reality right now is a reality where everything that we experience is totally without any freedom. Okay? Why? Because we experience through the cycle of the 12 links of interdependence, but we are in a negative interdependence. Okay? So if we eliminate ignorance, then we can create a positive interdependence. So let's just see now. Once we see how it works in this, like say, in this linear way, now we should see the way how it actually works as cause, condition, and result. Okay? When we look at the 12 links, we have basically, we can say there are 4 groups, but to make it more simple, we could say there are 3 groups. Okay? Which is the first group is ignorance, karmic formation, and consciousness. Then we could say the second group is craving, attachment, and becoming. So ignorance, karmic formation, and consciousness is like the cause. Okay? So out of ignorance, we do an action. With that action, we plant a seed that remains in our consciousness. So this is the cause that we are creating. In a time later, we will experience the result. But at the same time, we are also creating a condition for an action of the past to ripen, which is, whenever there is ignorance, at the same time there is also craving and attachment. Whenever there is craving and attachment, there is also ignorance. They go together. Okay? So, whenever out of ignorance, craving, and attachment, I do an action, at the same time I am making a karmic formation, which I am planting the seed on my consciousness for a future result, and at the same time I am creating a condition that ripens an action that I have done in the past that manifests as becoming. Okay? So out of that we can say that ignorance, karmic formation, and consciousness are of the same nature as craving, attachment, and becoming. They always come together. One cannot exist without the other. Then why are they separate? Because in relation to one specific karma, to one specific action, they are separate in time. Okay? Which means the karmic formation and the becoming are in 2 different moments of the same karma. One is the moment where the karma is made, the other is the moment where the karma ripens, where the result appears. But whenever we do an action out of craving, attachment, and ignorance, that same action is karmic formation deposited on the consciousness, and at the same time is also becoming, because at the same time, through that action, a cause that I have done in the past is being manifested. It's a condition. That's why cause and condition are synonymous. Sorry? They are mutually inclusive, which means basically anything that is a cause is also a condition. Anything that is a condition is also a cause. Okay? They are not mutually inclusive in relation to the same object, which say the cause of the glass is also the condition for the glass? No. But the cause for the glass, is it a condition for something else? Yes. So anything that is a cause, it will be inevitably also a condition. Anything that is a condition is also a cause. This, generally speaking. What's the difference? The cause is like a seed that we are planting for something that it will be experienced in the future. The condition is like the water and the sun being added to the seed that was planted in the past so that we can experience the result in the present. Okay? So, for example, let's say I'm doing one action in the present. I am walking, I see one person, this person is sad. Okay? I see this person there, a little bit sad, crying, whatever. And then, so I have contact with this person. Out of that, I have a sensation. And it's not a good sensation. I feel suffering because I don't like seeing that person sad. So out of that, I have craving. I don't want to feel suffering. So out of craving, I have attachment. I must do something about it. What I do? Oh, I see I have a flower. I'm going to give this flower to this person. I'm going to do something nice because I don't want you to suffer. And so I'm going to give you flowers so that you will feel better and happier. So I go and I give you the flower. In this moment that I'm doing that, what is happening? There have been craving, attachment, and ignorance, because I am doing that without having any idea of the law of cause and effect or interdependence and all the rest. So out of this, in the moment that I give you the flower, I'm having a karmic formation. Okay? I'm doing an action. Through that action, I'm creating a cause that I will experience the result somewhere in the future. It can be a nearby future, it can be a very far away future. I don't know. So in the moment that I give you the flower, I am having karmic formation and consciousness. I am planting the seed in the consciousness. Okay? At the same time that I'm giving you the flower and I'm creating a cause for the future, I'm also creating a condition for a cause that I have created in the past to ripen. So I give you the flower, you receive the flower, you smile at me, say thank you, and become happy, and I feel a sensation of pleasure. So what happened? Out of the action that I have done, I'm creating a condition for a karma to ripen, and that's becoming. That karma is ripening, and it appears, it manifests through a sensation of pleasure. Okay? The words that you say when you receive the flower are the conditions through which the karma manifests. But the actual experience, the actual result of the action of the karma is through the sensation of pleasure. Okay? It's through sensation that we experience the world. It's through sensation that we experience the actions that we have done in the past. Okay? So, sensation of pleasure means I created a condition for a positive karma to ripen. Instead, it can happen also that I see you, I don't want you to be sad, I come and I give you a flower. And instead of being happy, you come and you say, oh, what do you want? You want me to change my mind just with the flower, you stupid whatever, and you spit on my face. Okay? And then what happened? I feel suffering. Okay? So the action that I did by giving you the flower out of love is a positive action. And one day, somewhere, I'm going to experience the result of that positive action as a sensation of pleasure. But at the same time, the action that I did of giving you the flower was a condition for a negative karma to ripen. So you were angry, you reacted negatively to me, or you reacted positively, but I understood it negatively, but my sensation was negative. So through the sensation of suffering, I experienced the result of a negative karma that I have done in the past. So at every action that we do, we are creating a cause that we will experience in the future. And we are creating a condition that ripens some cause that we have done in the past. Okay? So that's why the present is always a connection with the past and a connection with the future. Every action that I do in the present, I'm creating a cause for the future and a condition to experience the causes that I have done in the past. Okay? So, every time that I act out of craving, attachment, and ignorance, I am creating karmic formation and I'm creating also becoming at the same time. Okay? Then, what happens is that out of becoming, what comes out? Birth. A new reality appears. I give you the flower, you smile at me, say thank you, give me a kiss, a hug, whatever. I feel happy about it. In the moment that the result appears, what happens? There is birth. In the moment that birth appears, aging and death already starts to come. Birth appears as name and form, six senses, contact, and sensation. Finally, how do I experience the birth? Through sensation. But it comes within contact, senses, and a psychophysical reality, body and mind, name and form. Okay? That's all about what birth is about, basically. So I experience this reality. In the moment that I experience this sensation of pleasure, that you come to me and you say, oh, how nice of you giving me the flower, and you hug me and so on, okay? There is a sensation.
What do I do to that sensation? I just keep it neutral. Okay, I have done it, finished, or I have a reaction through that sensation. What's the reaction? Craving. I want more. So I want more, so what I do, I say something else to you. Do you want to come for lunch? Okay? Then, it depends the way how you're going to react out of that. Okay? Maybe positive, maybe negative. Which will be another condition for another karma that will manifest once again as birth, name, form, senses, contact, sensation. That will be another craving. And out of that, and every action that I do, whenever there is craving attachment, there is also ignorance, karmic formation, and consciousness. So it's an infinite cycle of craving, attachment, and ignorance, which means mental defilements through which we act, that brings us the result, that we experience through sensation, that we have a reaction again of craving, attachment, and ignorance. And this is called the cycle of samsara. It's this endless process of action, result, reaction, result. Which means mental defilements, action, result. Mental defilements, action, result. The result, we experience it through sensation. Sensation naturally will have craving through sensation because we are ignorant. If there is no ignorance, there is no craving. Okay? So, this is actually when we talk about the cycle of samsara. And we are experiencing one thing after the other, and we have no choice really inside of it. Because in the moment there is sensation, until the day that we are going to be ignorant, there will be craving and attachment. There is no way out of that. Okay? So, the only way out is eliminating ignorance. So, based on that, we can see that we are constantly in a cycle. Every moment we are experiencing sensation. To every moment we are experiencing craving. So we are always doing a cause for something that we will receive in the future. In other words, we are always planting seeds. We are always harvesting the fruits. And we are always creating conditions for the next harvest that will just come afterwards. Okay? So the three things are always coming together. It's not like one after the other. Okay? We are always doing the three things together. Experiencing result of the past, creating condition for the next result, and creating causes for a future result. We are always doing that constantly. Some results last longer, some results last shorter. But within all of that, we are always doing. And there are many, many cycles that are overlapping constantly in our life. Okay? In relation specifically to the process of death and rebirth, what happens is that at the moment of death, there is sensation. Out of the sensation of death, we have craving and attachment. The attachment, especially, is the attachment for life, for our own existence. Okay, I don't want to extinguish. I must continue to exist. There's a very strong attachment in relation to that. So, what happened is that at that moment, when we die, we create a condition. Which is, what is the condition? Is the last thought, the last emotion that we have in the moment of death. Okay. So our last gross thought, because then when we go to a very subtle level, then the mind is all neutral somehow. But before that, the last thought that we have in the moment of death is so, so important. Because the last thought of the gross mind directs the subtle mind that directs the very subtle mind. So the last thought, the last emotion, the gross level, it's very, very important. Why? Because it becomes a condition for the result that is going to come just afterwards. And what's the result that we are going to experience just after death? Bardo. That's the next thing to experience. So, how we will experience Bardo depends on the condition that we create in the moment of death. Okay? So, the condition is the last thought that we have, the last emotion, the last state of mind. So if we create a positive condition in the moment of death, we will have a positive result. If we create a negative condition, we'll have a negative result. In other words, if we create a positive condition, we will access a positive karma, positive action that we have deposited in our mental continuum, in our consciousness. If we create a negative condition like anger, hatred, jealousy, envy, any negative emotion at the moment of death, we will create a negative condition so that a negative karma will ripen. So if we access at the moment of death a small negative karma, we will be reborn in the animal realm. If we access a medium negative karma, we will be reborn in the hungry ghosts. If we access a strong negative karma, we will be reborn in the hell realms. If we access a positive karma, a small positive karma, we are reborn in the human realm. If we access a medium positive karma, we are reborn in the demigod realm. If we access a strong positive karma, we are reborn in the god realms. Okay? This is generally speaking, right? There is also the fact that during the bardo, it's possible to change possibility also, because there are what we call the small death in bardo. It's like there is possibilities in the bardo before rebirth to change the karma that we access also. Okay? But this is, we go through the whole other explanation. But the point is that in the moment of death, the condition that we create, it will determine the way how we will continue. So, the mind of the state of death, it's the one that will determine the state of mind of rebirth, basically. Okay? Again, I tell you, we can change that during bardo. It's not that it's not possible to change, but generally speaking, if there is no specific change done, that's how it's going to follow. So what happens is that, let's say that I create, let's make an example of a negative interdependence. Even though in this life I may create a lot of positive actions. Okay? I was a good person, I did many positive actions, I was not harming other people, I accumulate merits. I was a good person in this life. But I die with anger. What happened? In the moment of death, what becoming will come out of that? Negative one. Let's say I access a small negative karma. I am reborn as a cockroach, as a cow, as a dog, as a pig, whatever. Okay? So, the positive karmas that I did in this lifetime and in my previous lifetime, are they all wasted? No. For example, this pig that is coming here, this wild pig. Sure, it has a lot of positive karma, otherwise it would not be here. You know, positive causes done in the past that are manifesting now by having people taking care, Rinpoche going there, and so on. All of this is due to positive causes of the past, okay? It's not that no positive results were ever, causes were all wasted because there was a negative result. It has nothing to do. Sometimes, you know, we have from our Western culture this idea that in the moment of death there is a judgment. It's like putting on a scale all the positive things, all the negative things. If you have done more positive than negative, then you are going to be, how to say in English, perdonato, forgiven for all the negative actions, so they will go away and you will just go on with all the positive things. Or if you are not forgiven because you have done more negative than positive, then all the positive that you have done is useless and you will suffer forever. In Buddhism, there is a very, very different view, which basically is in the moment of death, we create the condition to manifest one karma. So I have thousands and millions and billions of actions that I have done in all my lifetimes that I have not yet extinguished, because during life we extinguish a lot of karma. We burn a lot of karma. We use them. No? Every sensation that we have is a result of an action that we have done. So it's not that there is that we accumulate every action that we did through all the lives and it's all accessible in that moment. No. Many actions, they are already extinguished during life itself. But still, there are infinite number of seeds, positive and negative, that we can access in the moment of death. And in the moment of death, what determines our rebirth is one seed, not the result of all of them put together. So, if I access one positive karma, I will have a positive result, rebirth. If I access one negative karma, I will have one negative rebirth. Okay. So let's say in this life I have a good life, but in the moment of death I die with anger, and I access a negative karma, so I am reborn as a cow, as a pig, as a mosquito, whatever. Okay? What are the possibilities that in my next life as an animal, I am able to create a positive condition in the moment of death? It's much less than now. Okay? So, the real problem is that if I create a negative condition in the moment of death and I have a lower rebirth, to get out of this cycle, it's quite difficult. Because during the process as an animal, there is not so much awareness. So it's just living for survival. So very possibly the death will come by someone killing me or anything like that. So there is inevitably most of the times anger and so on. So through that, I will once again access a negative karma that will bring me once again a negative rebirth. And during this next rebirth, I will do a lot of negative actions because I am in a situation of a lot of suffering and so on. So I will enter into a negative cycle of rebirth that is quite difficult to get out of it. It's not impossible, but it's not easy. Okay? Can we see it? Can we understand it? Okay? So, based on that, what happens is that we must be very careful not to create negative conditions in the moment of death. How? By familiarizing ourselves during lifetime with virtue. We can understand that we cannot afford ourselves to familiarize ourselves with the defilements, because we cannot afford to die with a negative emotion. It's too expensive. Okay? Because then we enter into a negative vortex that to come out is extremely difficult. Okay? So out of that, it doesn't matter what happens, nothing is a reason for me to react with anger and so on, to familiarize myself with these negative emotions. I cannot afford it. I must cultivate what is positive. I must abandon any negative emotion. I must purify the negative actions that I have done, because I want to make the possibilities of a negative rebirth the smallest as possible. And I must accumulate positive actions. Because the karma also has the fact that the more I do one action, the more I get familiarized with it. The stronger it becomes in my mind also. So based on that, that's what we say, to look at the 12 links of interdependence in accordance to the small scope, which means I don't want to have a negative rebirth. Because, sometimes we may think, but I have the blessings, I have the connection, I am a Daka, I am a Dakini, whatever. We can have all the Buddhas by our side. No one of them can make us free from our own karma. And we are the only one who really knows how is my state of mind. Am I really familiarized with virtue or not? Okay. So what can a Buddha do? What can our Guru do? By being nearby us, thanks to the connection that we create during this lifetime. What does the Guru represent for us? Buddha, Dharma, Sangha represents faith, respect, love, gratitude, all positive emotions. So if we connect to that in the moment of death or in the moment of bardo, this assures us a positive result, a positive rebirth. Okay? But Other than that, it all depends on us. So I don't want to go into a negative cycle of rebirth. That's too expensive, I cannot afford that. That's too much. So what do I need to do? I need to prepare myself during lifetime to familiarize myself well with virtue. Okay. It's like, I don't know how it's in Europe, but there was one research done in Brazil, one survey. And they asked to people, do you believe in life after death? And they say, for those that say yes, and most of them said yes, what do you think will happen to you? Do you think you go to hell or heaven? 93% of the Brazilians think they go to heaven. Okay? Even those that are in jail because they have killed and all negative things, they think they go to heaven. Because they say, I am fine with God, everything is okay. What they think is that I have already paid enough during this life. I know what I have done. I don't know. Like, there is this very naive view that everything will be fine. Then you die with anger and then goodbye. So, I'm not saying that necessarily things need to go wrong. Not at all. We have all the conditions to have a good rebirth and enter into a positive cycle of rebirth. We're already in a positive rebirth. But we must take care of it. How? Abandoning non-virtuous actions, cultivating positive actions. Familiarizing ourselves with a positive state of mind. Okay? So in order to assure us a positive rebirth, there is what are called the 5 forces. Top 9 Tibetan, the 5 forces for a positive rebirth at the moment of death. I would just explain now, okay? So through this, can we see, like, through the 12 links of interdependence, is it more clear why we need to accumulate virtue and abandon negative actions and so on? Because if we enter a negative cycle of rebirth, it's not a joke. It's not impossible. It's very much possible. So, okay, this person said this, that person said that, this happened in this way, and so what? It's always nothing. None of it is a reason for me to familiarize myself with anger and all other destructive emotions. I cannot afford that. It can be too expensive, too dangerous for me to do that. So I must take care of my own mind and behavior, because I don't want to go into this negative cycle of rebirth. Okay? And to develop these thoughts sincerely, which is extremely important, is the first step of renunciation. It's called the small scope. It's when we say, I cannot afford to do negative actions. I cannot afford to familiarize my mind with mental defilements. Okay? I think it's quite clear, no? Naomi, there was a question? Yeah, the point is like, once, okay, for example, when we talk about animals have all emotions that we have, okay? Love, compassion, anger, jealousy, envy, and so on. So, an animal that dies in a state of love, compassion, generosity, there are many ways that this can happen. This will be a positive condition for a positive and a better rebirth. Okay? For example, an animal can die with a thought of gratitude. There can be many ways, So if any of this happens, then it is creating a positive condition. It's basically the same thing for us. But the animals also have these emotions, positive emotions also. So if the animal dies, for example, the condition necessary to get out of hell is to have a sincere feeling of love. There is this story of a previous life of Buddha, and he was in the hell realm. And he was carrying the hell. I would like to talk a little bit later after lunch about the 6 realms of existence and give the explanation, so I will explain better hell. But there was this life of Buddha. Hell is said to be a manifestation of our own mind, basically. But there was this life of Buddha, and he was in the hell before becoming Buddha. And he was carrying like how to say in English, a carriage, like a car, a carriage. And on top of it was this, it's called the guard of the hell, and he was beating him. And nearby him there was someone else also carrying together with him the carriage. And he couldn't carry anymore. It was too difficult. And this guard of the hell was beating him and saying, "Oh, go on." And then he felt compassion for the one nearby him. And this previous life of Buddha said, no, if he's not being able to carry it, stop beating him. I will carry for both of us. No? But stop beating him. I will do it. So in that moment, he felt a sincere compassion for that other hell being nearby him. And out of that sincere love and compassion, then the guardian of the hell looked to him and said, "Oh, mind your own business." And he took a big, hammer, and he went on the head of him with the hammer. And then he died in the hell, and he was reborn in a better life. It was just the hammer was just the condition for him to die in the hell and be reborn. Okay? But the story is saying that in the hell it's possible to develop love. And then it's enough, just one instant of sincere love and compassion in the hell realm in order to have a positive rebirth, to get out of hell. Okay. In the animal realm, it's different. It's not that feeling love you get out right away, but still, it's possible to die with a positive emotion. It's not impossible that. Also, it's more difficult, but it's possible. Okay. It's more difficult because it's difficult to explain to the animal, look, you must have a positive thought, familiarize your mind with virtue, so in the moment of death you must be careful, and so on. It's much more difficult to do that. Okay? We human beings have this ability. If we use it or not is another thing. Okay? So, just to conclude, what are actually the way, how can we actually assure ourselves that we are going to have a good rebirth? Because we have seen quite clear that we cannot afford to have a negative rebirth. Because if we have a negative rebirth as an animal realm or whatever, then it becomes quite difficult afterwards. So what can I do in order to assure myself that I will have a positive rebirth? In the Guru Puja, verse number 112, it says, should we not have completed the points of the path in the time of death, which means if arrives the moment of my death and I have not realized renunciation, bodhicitta, correct view of reality, I have not eliminated ignorance, should we have not completed the points of the path at the time of death, we seek your blessings that we may be led to a pure land, which means a positive rebirth, through either the instructions of applying the 5 forces or by the forceful means of enlightenment, the Guru's transference mind, which means through the 5 forces or to the help what we call the transference Tomnayandan Jarwe Damna Lamna Masichiwe Duchena Tsenda Tsanga Lame Tsentab Tsanga Lame Poani Tomnayandan Jarwe Damnage Tabeshin to Drober Jingilop. Actually, it says through the transference of consciousness of the Guru that happens through the 5 forces. Okay? So the 5 forces are essential also for us to have a positive rebirth. Okay? So, what are the 5 forces that can assure us a positive rebirth? The first one is called the force of virtue. Carpe sabium top is the force of the white seed of virtue. Okay? The white seed of virtue is basically the fact of not being attached to the material things and to direct the material things positively. What does that mean? There are two ways how we can direct the material things in a positive way. One way is we direct the material things in order to help others to be free from suffering and to avoid suffering. For example, a hospital, giving food, whatever way, that we help others to avoid suffering and to eliminate their suffering. And the other way is that we direct the material things in a way that will generate positive thoughts and virtuous actions. For example, I help a monastery, I help a Dharma center, I help a place that is generating positive emotions and positive thoughts and virtuous knowledge and actions to others. So these are the two ways of generating positive energy through the material things. So, first thing, not be attached to the material things. How can we do not to be attached to material things? Relating to the material things as a means and not a goal. Okay? So, normally when we possess things, very often why we possess? Because we like to possess. Here what we need to learn, change. Why I possess? Because I use it for something. What's the function that it has? Everything has a function and I must use it for the function that it has and not simply for the fact of possessing things. Because the simple fact of owning something and then so what? I have it. But if we relate ourselves to the material things simply in the order to have them, to possess them, we become slaves of it. And then we are not able even to be free from it. And at the moment of death, we cannot die easily because we are attached. I cannot leave this, and how can I do? I have accumulated this and that, and it becomes very difficult. So first thing, not to be attached to the material things and relate to the material things as a mean and not as a goal. And then, at the same time, direct what we have in a positive direction. So, wonder how can we do that practically? We should write our will. Okay, in the moment I die, I want this for that, this should be used for this, that should be used for that. If there is a possibility, some of us are lucky that death comes and knocks in our door, saying, oh, I am here, I am coming. Like my teacher, he had a cancer in the, esophagus. And then in the moment that he knew that there was nothing that he could do much to cure his sickness and so on, he took everything that he had materially, he gave it to the monastery, he donated it where he thought was the best. He didn't have much actually. I think he had a total of 1,500 euros, something like that he donated to the monastery. Then he donated his tankas, his statue, texts, everything that he had. And then even his room that was his, he donated it. And then basically he just waited by doing his practices for death to come. And he died in a very nice way actually. Okay? So, this is one of the strengths, one of the forces, which is to give up what we have material, to direct it positively. We can do or before we die, or we can put it in a will also. Okay? Second force is called the force of intention. The force of intention, dympetop, is the intention to have a positive rebirth. Is the ability to project ourselves in a better life. Okay? So in order to do that, is the fact of not being attached to this body. Is the ability to transcend the identity of the self from this body. And to say, I am not only what is in this body. This body is just a means that I have in this life. Sooner or later, this body, I need to give up this body and I will continue. So may I have a good rebirth. May I be always nearby the correct guru, follow the right path to enlightenment. May I have good conditions. And that's more important. The continuity is more important than what is right now here. So, to develop an identity that transcends this body, that goes beyond it, and not to be attached to this body, to this name. Oh, here I am with this little body, Lama, Michel, whatever, and here I am attached to it. go beyond it. Okay? So to be able to see ourselves beyond this body, this name, this image, and understand that we will continue after death, even though we will not continue as we know ourselves now, but we will continue. And then, so we direct ourselves for a better rebirth. That's the second force, which is the force of intention. Okay? And between these two, there is another point which is not clearly stated, but it's important also, is for us not to be attached to the people that we like in this life also, no? Because one of the strongest attachment that we have is towards our father, mother, son, daughter, husband, wife, friends, guru, whatever. We can have a strong connection to the guru, but not to be attached, because there is a difference to be attached to the relationship, the pure relationship between guru and disciple, and to be attached to the physical image of the guru. These are two different things, okay? If I am attached to the physical personality and the person and so on, this is not good. Sure, this is okay. This means you are directing yourself in a positive way. May I be reborn here because I want to be nearby my guru and the continuity of my lineage, and I must continue this path. That's okay. The problem is that when I am so attached to the people that are around me that I don't want to leave this body in the moment of death. When arrived the moment of death, I must understand that what I took was wonderful, and what I received was wonderful, and I have created strong connections that I will continue to take care in my next lives. But I must go on. I cannot keep it forever. So, the father, the mother, the daughter, the son, the uncle, the husband, the wife, whatever, are all relationships that when we die, they end in the way how we know them. I have created a strong connection with that person, and I will keep that connection in my next lives. But these connections will manifest in a different way, not in the way that I know right now. Okay? So, when we think about the guru, we make the prayers, may I never be separated from the perfect guru. May in all my lives I always be able to fulfill the path of the Dharma and so on, the path to enlightenment. And we create a strong connection that we hope to take care, continue from life to life. But when I die, the next life, the body will be a different body. The conditions will be different conditions. It's not the same as we have right now. So we need to go beyond this closed-minded idea that things are just like we are right now. Some people, sometimes they think, oh, when I die, I'm going to meet the people that I love that have already passed away. And they imagine meeting them with the same body, the same clothes, the same situation, you know. Okay, it's quite naive, actually. It's quite infantile somehow to think in this way, okay? The fact is that we change body, change conditions, but it's always us in a different way, okay? So it's also good to go beyond that attachment. The third force is called the force of opposition, or Sunjimpetop, or the force of antidote, the force of opposition, which is the fact of generating a strong determination not to be led by our mental defilements, generating a strong determination in which we say, I am not going to follow anger, jealousy, pride, miserliness, and so on. It doesn't matter what may happen. It's too expensive. I cannot afford it. Okay? So it doesn't matter what happens, I'm not going to follow anger. I'm not going to follow attachment, selfishness, envy, miserliness, and so on. Okay? By having this determination, does this mean that we are going to be able right away not to follow it completely? No. But first of all, we must have the determination. Okay? So, the third force is to have the determination not to follow mental defilements. The fourth force is called the force of prayer, Mölamgitop, which is to direct our mind positively to a good rebirth, to what we want. So, as we say, the first thing that we need to do in order for something to happen is to wish it, is to desire it. So, may I never be separated from the mind of bodhicitta. May I always live in a state of compassion, love, and wisdom. May I always follow the path to enlightenment in order to help every sentient being. So to direct our mind positively, to wish positive things for ourselves and others. So that's the very important force, which is called the force of prayer. And the last force, but not least, very important one, which is the force of familiarization, kompetop. The force of familiarization is the fact of familiarizing ourselves with virtuous states of mind. So during our lifetime, to generate again and again a state of mind of love, of respect, of gratitude, of compassion, of generosity, and to familiarize ourselves with such state, a mind of wisdom, of morality, of joyful effort, and so on. So to generate these positive states of mind, so we get familiarized to it, so that we can generate it spontaneously in the moment that we may need it, which is always basically, but that we can generate it spontaneously also in the moment of our own death. So, the 5 forces that assures us a positive rebirth is the force of virtue, not to be attached to the material things and to direct them positively. The force of intention, not to be attached to our body and direct ourselves for a better rebirth. The force of opposition, to oppose ourselves to the mental defilements. The force of prayer, to direct our mind to virtue. The force of familiarization, to familiarize ourselves with virtue. Okay? If we practice the 5 forces, we assure ourselves a positive rebirth. There is no doubt whatsoever about that. Okay? So, when we look at the 12 links, it's not that there is no way out. There is a very clear way not to enter into a negative cycle of rebirth, which is by the generation of the 5 forces, which is not something impossible. It's something that intellectually all of us can understand. It's something that we can direct ourselves through it. But it takes effort, right? It's not something that comes spontaneously. Something that we need to put effort on that in our life. But what else do we have to do in our life? Other than prepare ourselves correctly for our own death and to familiarize our mind with virtue. Okay, we need to work, we need to take care of our family, we need to make money, we need to pay the bills, we like enjoying our life also. So, okay, all of this is fine, but it's just, part of surviving in this life. But what's the main intention? I must familiarize myself with virtue. I must direct my mind positively. Because I can have all the friends of the world, I can have all the Buddhas taking on my hand. They cannot make me experience anything that I have not created the causes. It depends on my own action, All the Buddhas can come and say, come on, let's go on. And if I don't do my own steps, I won't be free from samsara. So based on that, familiarize ourselves with virtue, abandon non-virtuous actions, which with actions done with anger and so on. Really put effort to develop the 5 forces, basically. That's important because we cannot wait the moment of death to do that. Are we going to die or not? Yes. There is no doubt about it. When? I have no clue. I have no idea when. Some of us are lucky enough to have death knocking at our door and saying, okay, here I am coming, you have 6 months. You have 1 year. No? I remember one time there is a disciple of Rinpoche in Brazil. And she came to Rinpoche many years ago when she met Rinpoche. And then she had a very serious sickness and problems. And then she came to talk to Rinpoche about her health problems and so on. And then Rinpoche started laughing so much. Then she was looking and said, why are you laughing, Even the doctors that I go, they all cry when they see my situation. And then you are laughing. And then Rinpoche said to her, because you are very fortunate, because everyone is going to die, but they don't know about it. You know that you are going to die. So you are very fortunate about it. No? And then, okay, she's alive until now. 25 years have passed, she's there. But is Vera Marcondes. So, the point is that, if we know how to use it correctly, it's very fortunate to have death coming and say, here I am, I'm coming, prepare yourself. Some of us don't have this fortune, to die. Some people say, oh, you are much more lucky if you died just like that. I think it's good if the death comes knocking in our door, and if we cannot prepare ourselves, then no difference. But if we can prepare ourselves, okay, then like my teacher did, okay, now death is coming, I go for retreat, I stop doing everything else, I prepare myself well, wonderful. So, but we don't know if death is ever going to knock in our door or just enter from one moment to the other. So there is nothing wrong with death itself. The problem is to die without having prepared ourselves correctly. The problem is to die without having familiarized our mind with positive thoughts and emotions, and to die with a negative emotion and thought. That's the real problem. So basically, the point is that the 5 forces is something that we can generate, it's something that we can train ourselves in, and we cannot wait tomorrow for that. We must do it today. We must start training ourselves right now. Okay? All right. So we conclude for this morning. And then in the afternoon we start at 3:30. And then we will see the part of explaining. We'll finish with the text and we'll explain the 6 realms of existence. Okay?
Jetsun lame kutse raptenchi nam karachinle chochur gepadang losan tempe dreme drove munse tatu ne gyurchi nimo dele tsendele nime kuyan delekshin ninsen taktu delekpe Concho sumge jinge lob, concho sumge modrup sol, concho sumge trashisho. At dawn or dusk, at night or midday, may the 3 jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realizations and sprinkle the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness.